Right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Veterans Corner. I'm your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert, coming to you from Northern Virginia. As many of you know and have been to our show before, our show presents veterans from across the nation and allows them to share with us their stories, their experiences, and what they're doing now. So we're going to get to tonight's guest in just a moment, but before we do, I want to first take a moment to thank our sponsors tonight, Quest Jewelers of Merrifield, Virginia. For those of you that are looking for something really special for that special someone, contact Pete and Juan Tain of Quest Jewelers of Merrifield, Virginia, and I guarantee you they can help you out. They are the masters of jewelry. So again, contact Quest Jewelers. You'll see their information there on the screen. I also want to thank our other sponsor, Nationwide IT Services, NIS. Nationwide IT Services of Fairfax, Virginia is a service-disabled, veteran-owned 8A small business. CK Park and his crew are there to meet all of your business needs, anything from strategic planning, IT training, to whatever you may need for your business. So give his folks a call and let CK and his crew help you out. So we do want to thank our sponsors for their sponsorship of our veterans program. So I want to introduce you to tonight's guest, and this is kind of interesting. Tonight we have retired Army Colonel Gregory Pritchett. Greg is, amazingly enough, started his Army career way back in 1969. And that's not to say that he's old, but he had an illustrious career, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. In fact, I have a couple of commonalities that I want to discuss with him. Greg has both a bachelor's and a master's degree from Tuskegee, and he also has a PhD from Georgia State University, and I think he is a biophysical chemist. So that's something kind of new that we have here. He lives in Tuskegee, Alabama now. So, Greg, first of all, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show and welcome you.
Thank you, Paul, for inviting me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have veterans like you on the show. The interesting thing is when I was reading your bio, and I looked on there and I said, my goodness, this guy started his Army career back in 1969 at the same post I started mine at in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And I noticed you spent the first part of your career in field artillery, as did I, in an FDC. So can you tell us a little bit about, your early career, how you came into the military and kind of how you developed on?
Well, actually, I was drafted and I started at Fort Benning. That's where I had basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And after basic training, I had AIT, Advanced Individual Training, at Fort Sill. And I guess that's another common thing we have, Paul. We had the same MOS in AIT. And so after AIT, I went to Artillery Officer Candidate School.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I was commissioned. So I was also fire direction. That was my AIT, fire direction computer. Yeah.
Yeah, you were an FDO.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I got to tell you, I really enjoyed that part of my career, even though it was just my first enlistment. It's funny too because, like you said, you actually took basic at Fort Benning.
Yes.
And later on in my career, I changed over to the Chemical Corps, but later on in my career, I was the chief instructor at the Regional Chem Bio School at Fort Benning. So that's why I was saying you and I have been in some of the same places, only much before me. So you went to officer school, got your commission. I noticed that you got out of field artillery as an FDO and got into the Army Medical Corps, right?
Well, I spent after officer candidate school, I did a 2-year tour in Germany.
Okay.
And I was in ballistic missiles. It was a NATO assignment. And so I was still in, field artillery officer at that point. And when I left Germany, I went to Vietnam. So I did a tour as a field artillery officer in Vietnam. So when I came off active duty from Vietnam, I branch transferred to medical service.
Okay, so you did your time in Vietnam as an FDO.
Yes.
Now, I can imagine that was pretty interesting.
It was quite interesting. Quite interesting. I was by the time I got to Vietnam, I was a captain, and I was an assistant operations officer in artillery battalion. So my main job there was to actually run the tactical operations center, and sometimes we had to go up and call in artillery fire from the air. In artillery, we have to keep those batteries registered. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how just how incredible the Army was even back then with field artillery.
Yes.
I was amazed, as I'm sure as you were, when I came in. I was amazed too to see what the capabilities of our field artillery corps was.
Yeah.
And you used to always say you don't want to be on the bad end of that. And I remember when I was in Desert Storm, we ended up on the bad end of some of it on occasion, and I was never more happy to get away from it. So, so did
well,
you? Go ahead.
I guess that's something else we have in common, because as a reservist, I was called up Desert Storm. Also, my wife was also called up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, well, tell us about that. You can tell us about that. How'd that happen?
Well, we actually were called up during Desert Shield. My wife, when I came off active duty, aligned with the Army Reserve in a medical unit, my wife, who happened to be a nurse, was commissioned, got a direct commission as a first lieutenant. And she's also retired now. She's a retired 05.
Oh my gosh.
So we had a good ride.
I didn't realize that, or I would have got you both on here as a couple and did the show with both of you.
I didn't even think about that, Bob.
What did you do when you were called up for Desert Shield?
I was stationed at Martin Army Hospital at Fort Benning, because our unit was that was our mobilization station. So I ended up, and I spent the whole time at Fort Benning. Didn't have to deploy in the front. As a matter of fact, I had received orders to deploy to Saudi Arabia, and I believe the first flight that was canceled leaving Lawson Army Airfield at Fort Benning would have been my flight. So we were standing by to go, but they had that big 4-day thing. So that there was one group of us, we just had to stand down. And as a matter of fact, I was retained at Fort Benning for an additional 6 months.
Yeah, because I ended up going to Benning. I left 2nd Armored Cav out of Europe when we came back from the desert. And that was my next duty station, was Benning, when I came back from Desert Storm.
We might have crossed paths there somewhere. Yeah, I stayed on. Yeah,
it's quite possible. So I want to take a step back, though. We kind of jumped ahead when you mentioned that, because I thought that was interesting. But I want to find out. So how did you? I know your degrees are in chemistry and chemistry related fields, which is pretty impressive. and especially to me, considering I'm not a great chemistry or science fan. So to me, I think that's very impressive. How did you make that move from artillery into the medical corps?
It was fairly easy because see, when I left Vietnam, came off active duty, came back to Tuskegee. As a matter of fact, that's where I met one of your guests, Bill Gross. We both were in school together. We both did our masters here, and we actually took a class together. And there was a unit, a medical unit, that was in close proximity to the university, and it was just convenient. And I had a sort of a leaning, in that direction anyway. And they were looking, the Army Medical Department was looking for medical service officers anyway. So I did a branch transfer.
Oh, well, that was kind of fortunate that they were looking for people to branch transfer into that field. Yeah. So can you share with us what were some of the things that you did as a medical officer with a chemistry degree? What did you do?
Actually, I didn't. We in the Army Medical Department, they have some units where you can actually use your chemistry, but I didn't. I guess my first assignment was in logistics, a hospital. I was in the hospital that I was assigned to here at Tuskegee was the 129th MASH. It was a MASH unit, like MASH on TV.
Yeah.
And I was the supply officer. And later on, that unit was deactivated, and we became a 100-bed station hospital, the 1207th United States Army Hospital. And I became a personnel officer, and then later on, executive officer.
Oh, okay. Well, did you spend a lot of your career in the medical corps there around Tuskegee, or where else did you serve?
Oh, that was a great that was a great part about serving. We were, as I said, we were assigned initially when we were a MASH unit to Fort Rucker. So we would do our annual training down at Fort Rucker. Once we transferred from the MASH to the station hospital, we were assigned to Fort Benning. And so, we did a lot of, some very good annual trainings. We went to places like Fort Drum, New York. We would go to give medical support to field units, infantry units. So had a chance to go to Fort Drum, New York. We were just all over the place. And obviously we went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas many times because that's the home of the Army Medical Department. So just about every other year, we would go out to Fort Sam Houston, Fort Gordon, Georgia, so Fort Stewart, Georgia. We were all over the place.
So did you guys ever get an opportunity to, how can I say, did you ever get an opportunity to go overseas and support?
I didn't. My wife went to, I know she went on a shot team. They were doing inoculation down in the Bahamas. But we had, selected medical personnel, people who are actually healthcare providers who actually went, did overseas tours.
Well, so Greg, I wanted to ask you too. I mean, you spent, how many years did you spend in?
Well, total time 30.
Yeah, 30 years.
Yes, sir.
That's a very was something that you definitely are proud of, something that you definitely look back on with fond memories. But you spent all of those years in. I know there's bound to be something, a particular experience, so something that really has stayed with you or stayed in your mind. Could you share one of those with us?
I probably have a few like that.
Okay.
I know when I was in Germany, we were at a custodial unit. I was working with the German Air Force. We were a custodial unit. They owned everything up to the warhead, and we were responsible for maintaining custody of the warhead and mating the warhead when we got an authentic message to authenticate. But some of the people that I met there, some of the German officers that I worked with, I lost contact with some. I maintained contact for a long time, but I had a chance to do a lot of traveling because I would actually sort of immerse myself into the German Air Force unit. When they went on maneuvers, I would go with them. So that was sort of a highlight being in Germany. And I had a chance to, the other thing is, I had a chance, we were remote. We were not in a built-up location like Augsburg, some of the larger places where you had a huge American presence. So we had a lot of troops who, in an isolated place like the name of the place was Schwabstadt, and I mean we were out in the middle of nowhere, south of Augsburg, but I had a chance to interact with a lot of the troops that we had there. I encouraged a lot of the troops, I mean, not to just spend time just sitting around. And I had a chance to get with the Army Education Department up at Augsburg. And we actually started classes out there for some of the enlisted troops. And that really, I think that had an impact on their lives. And so that was one thing that I was very, very proud of. And I was always, even when even in Vietnam, I always tried to keep in touch with troops, not just do the job and just disappear. I was always around the troops. If I spotted someone and they looked like they were having a real bad day, we just sit down and talk. So I think that's what I'm most proud of, the fact that I was able to influence the lives of a lot of troops, especially enlisted troops that I served with.
Yeah, that's something I identified with too throughout my career. So that's a very good point. Well, Greg, we're going to take a short break, and for the audience out there, when we come back from our break, we're going to continue our discussion with retired Army Colonel Greg Pritchett, and I want to learn a little bit more about your experience there at Tuskegee and what you're doing now. So we'll be right back after the break. All right, and thank you again to our great sponsors, and welcome back everyone to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to the Veterans Corner, and we are talking to retired Army Colonel Greg Pritchett tonight. And Greg, I mean, you have a really distinguished academic career as well. You know, with both your undergraduate and your master's degree in chemistry, and then on to your PhD. And I know that you got your two earlier degrees at Tuskegee. So, you know, can you share with us? I'm sure, being from that area as well, that Tuskegee has a soft spot, soft place in your heart. Not only because of the history there and the history of the Tuskegee Airmen, but with you, that being your alma mater. So can you share a little bit about how that is with you?
Yeah, I often tell people, you know, I came to Tuskegee and never left, never really left, because I'm still here. Um, you know, and I really enjoyed my career as a professor, because that's something that I really wanted to do. Both my parents were school teachers, and I think maybe that's part of my inspiration to teach. So I was involved in teaching, research, and service while at Tuskegee. I joined when I finished my doctorate at Georgia State University in Atlanta. Well, before that, after I got my master's, I taught for a year in Phoenix City, Alabama. Chattahoochee Valley Community College is still, it's still going strong.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I taught there the first year that it operated in its new campus over there. So I actually, the building that they use for science now, I was in on the planning of the construction of that particular building. I remember we designed chemistry labs. We just got some old buildings. I think these buildings were donated, but we established chemistry labs while permanent buildings were being built. So that was something to and that's where my military background sort of helped. You know, you knew what to do, you knew how to plan, you knew how to get things done. So, but when I left there, that's when I went back. I decided I wanted to get my doctorate. When I completed my doctorate, I spent a year at Auburn University. So you see, I never really left this area. This is right up the road. So I taught there for a year, and then I had a chance to come back to my alma mater, Tuskegee, which is what I really wanted to do. And I joined the faculty in the chemistry department. I eventually became department head, and I served as department head for almost 12 years.
Yeah.
And when I retired, I was the associate dean for the College of Arts and Sciences. So my job there was to administratively oversee 8 other departments. So I had a good run.
Well, it's so the reason why, I'm shaking my head is because it's so uncanny to talk to you because, I finished most of my education while I was at Fort Benning and actually got both my undergraduate and graduate degree from Troy University. It used to be Troy State. And I
Yes.
had a number of professors that came over from Auburn and taught my master's classes. So they used to travel over to Infantry Hall there on Fort Benning, and we used
Yes.
the classrooms there on Infantry Hall. So that's why I said you and I have been in so many of the same similar types of things. And it's interesting, and I'm really impressed to hear you talk about your academic career. I mean, I've had the privilege of being an adjunct professor for one of our local colleges for about 20 years now, since I graduated since I retired from the Army. So it's just so interesting to sit and listen to you, and you and I could definitely have some stories to tell over a beer or something. I could guarantee.
Yeah, we got to do that. I know a lot about Troy. As a matter of fact, when Chattahoochee Valley got its permanent campus with buildings, Troy, Troy started out with a branch. Well, Troy had branches everywhere, all over the world, but Troy actually moved its branch onto the campus there at Chattahoochee Valley.
Yeah.
I had a chance to interact with faculty from Troy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see, how many similarities there are with what we've been doing. So you mentioned your wife and how she had a good career in the military. And so can you tell us a little bit more about your family? Do you have any kids or grandchildren?
We are blessed with a lot of godchildren. We don't have any children,
Okay.
but we might as well have several children.
Yeah.
because godchildren, they count, and so at Christmas time we just like any other parents who have nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
I had two brothers. My oldest brother Willie, a veteran, passed away 2 years ago now. He lived in Mobile, Alabama. He was a veteran. My brother Don had pancreatic cancer. He passed away in 2009. He was an Air Force. He was an Air Force veteran. He graduated from Tuskegee. Went on active duty in the Air Force, went to flight school, started flight school at Advanced Air Force Base in Enid, Oklahoma. My father was a veteran. He actually retired through the Army Reserve. He was a retired Sergeant First Class, Army Reserve. So it sort of runs in my family. I have an uncle who's actually 2 years younger than I am, but he's a retired Sergeant Major, Army.
So let me ask you though, who's in charge when you two get together, the Sergeant Major or the old Colonel?
The Sergeant Major. Paul, you know that. You already know the answer.
I thought you might say that. That's why I just wanted to. I had to ask.
You already know the answer to that.
Well, and I have to tell you, I mean, you come from such an illustrious serving family. So, we definitely want to thank you and your family for all of that service. And even though your brothers aren't still with us, I mean, for all the service that your family's put forth, I mean, you and your wife. So, that's a busy life. It's a busy career. So now that you're kind of retired, I wanted to ask you one more question. Something that I saw that I wanted to ask you if you're still doing it. I thought I saw something where you had a Willie Pritchett Memorial Fund Scholarship Program?
Yeah, that was a scholarship started for my father. We still have it. We're trying to build it up so we can just do scholarships of the interest. We're trying to endow it. My dad, his thing was recruiting, not just for college. He was a high school counselor. So if he found, people in the neighborhood, youngsters in the neighborhood, males who weren't doing anything, he had this relationship with the Selective Service Board. As a matter of fact, a family joke is that my uncle, the retired sergeant major, was not drafted by the Army. He was drafted by my father, because my father went up to the draft board and arranged that. And that really is the truth, because he was just running around. And he'll tell you that. He was just running around doing nothing. But my dad was instrumental in he would load up his car, take students to various colleges. And if they didn't want to go to college, the Army was his thing. He just loved to put people in the Army. As a matter of fact, he received an appointment as an honorary lieutenant colonel aide-de-camp by the governor of Alabama for his service as an Army recruiter. So he probably did as much recruitment for the Army as some of the people who were assigned to do that job. So he really enjoyed doing that.
So I guess for our audience, if anyone out there would be interested in finding out how they could help the scholarship program, that they could go to Tuskegee Institute's website and find the information.
It's not on that. I'm working on. I don't have a website for that yet. We will have one within a few months for that, and I'll make sure I get the information out to you.
Yeah, if you would, definitely. If you don't have it now, if you get it to me, I'll definitely put it out on one of my future shows for you. Definitely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So now that you are retired, I know that you do some community volunteering with various programs.
Yes. It's retirement doesn't mean just stop doing every day. Yeah. But a lot of those community programs, I'm sort of working in the background, but some of those community programs, I know you saw something that said Science on Saturday. And what I do mostly now is just, people will call me and I give advice. I tutor. Sometimes there would be a person who has a daughter or son who's having problems with chemistry. They'll contact me. And it's nothing formal, but the next thing I know, I might have a little mini class at my house, not during COVID or anything. But as a matter of fact, just yesterday, with one of my goddaughter's daughter who's taking chemistry, we were doing some chemistry. So enjoy doing stuff like that and helping people and plan to get a little more involved in that.
Yeah.
Not in the background, but out front.
Well, it's kind of interesting because, a lot of the veterans that I talk to, they all want to continue on doing something. And in fact, me doing this show was kind of something that kind of fills that for me, because continuing these conversations with the veterans and getting them on the show and allowing you guys to share your stories and your experiences, was something that I really enjoyed doing. So, staying in that, how can you say, I don't want to use the term service mode, but,
Yeah.
still wanting to do things and maybe do things for the community. So, I have to salute you for that. But I mean, you've had such, when I read your bio and I was reading some of your experiences, you've had such an incredible career and such an incredible life that, over the years, I'm sure it's evident you've amassed such a myriad of experience. So I wanted to just ask you before we close the show tonight, if there were something that you would like to share with our fellow veterans that listen to the show, or just someone else in the audience, if there was one thought that you would like to share with them, what would that thought be?
Basically, Paul, what you just said, just keep working. In the in the Army, when we were in basic training, when you finish the day, we had this thing we would say stack arms. You finish.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just say, don't just sit down and stack arms. I think veterans are uniquely positioned to be of great service because of the discipline that we have through training. I'm prejudiced there, but I've seen that where I've worked with people who don't have that kind of background, and you just wonder why it's taking them so long to get something done. So that's what I would say to veterans: don't just stack arms and just you have so much value, but like I said, through discipline that you gain through training. So just keep it going. Just keep it going. You can always find something else to do.
Yeah. It's, and I have to tell you, I want to thank you for that, because that is so true with the myriad of experience that we get as veterans traveling all over with the training and everything. It seems like we become a jack of all trades and a master of a few. Yeah. So, there's still a lot of talent out there that can be used for so many different things. So that's true.
Absolutely.
And I want to thank you for that. So, Greg, I really want to say I appreciate you very much being on the show. It's been a pleasure to learn about your military career and your experiences and, your distinguished service at the university and your years of teaching. I think you really are, someone that our audience could emulate, especially for our younger viewers and what they may want their life to look like in 30 or 40 years from now. So, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. And, tell your wife for me, I'm sorry we didn't get her on. I'm sure it would have been great to talk with her as well, but, tell her we thank her for her service as well.
All right, I will do that. And thank you, Paul, for having me.
Well, thank you very much. And for those of you out there watching the show and the veterans out there watching the show, I just want to share something with you. It's not always easy dealing with veterans, and I can say that from firsthand experience, because my wife, God bless her, she's a saint. She deals with me. She deals with the issues that I face as a disabled veteran, and it's not an easy life to live. So for those of you out there that are caregivers for veterans, spouses of veterans, children of veterans, and you are helping to take care of that veteran family member or parent or spouse or whatever it is, please take a look at the va.gov, the www.caregiver.va.gov. There are all kinds of tips, programs, and help available for you as a caregiver for a veteran. So again, I just want to point that out to you. Please make sure that you use those resources and take advantage of them. And thank you for listening to the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network and the Going Solo Veterans Corner. Veterans, we want to thank you for your service, and we hope to inspire you to live the best life after your military service. I'm your host, retired Army First Sergeant Paul Holbert, and I want to invite you to visit the literaryvet.net, my author's website, and the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network at goingsolomedia.com for more information about our show and other shows on the network. So I will see you next time, and thank you for watching. Good night.